Tesla stock is still taking a hammering, and there are a whole lot of theories why, but I'm here to talk to investors about the fundamentals and how they've actually shifted over the last couple of years. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Did want to say a quick thank you to new and upgrading members on Patreon, Jeremy, Sarah, and Ed, and OH, who has upgraded. Thank you so much. More names coming. You can support me by using my referral code or by joining on Patreon, YouTube, or X. All of those finally have a unified brand. Just one thing to remember: Futuraza. Very fun. So let's talk about what has actually changed over the last 2 or 3 years. What's different about the company? So the first is the sales have increased. Production has increased. The number of factories complete and outputting vehicles or ramping vehicle production has increased dramatically. If you were to go back to the all-time high a few years ago and say, by the way, in 2024, they'll have Berlin running, they'll have Texas running, they'll have the Cybertruck out, you would assume, quite likely anyway, that the stock price would be up. But it isn't. It's down. It's brutal. And it depends which time frame you look at. There are time frames for which it is up and time frames for which it is down, but it is taking a beating, an absolute hammering. Let's talk about why. The cash flow and cash on hand is still strong. It's still improving. They've got a big pile of cash they can use to do new things, to finish the things they're working on, the ramps, the new products, getting Cybertruck going, all that. But what hasn't changed so much in a good way? Well, the big growth numbers we saw back then, it was growing 50% a year. If you go back very far, you'll see growth of about 50% a year. Last year, we did not see it. Growth was still strong. This year, growth is predicted to be less strong than it was last year. And that's because the Cybertruck is just ramping. The compact is not out. The semi is not out. Those big factors are missing. The factories are coming, but they're not here yet. They're not here yet. And new factory, well, the expansion at Giga Berlin is going to take, it's not going to happen this year. It might happen by the end of next year. Mexico is not happening this year. It might happen by the end of next year. An expansion in Texas for the compact could happen by the end of this year, but that's a long time horizon to try and hold out for, at least in terms of the stock market. The other factor that was coming was there was no competition, really, at the time. 3-4 years ago, the competition wasn't serious. The competition is always about to arrive. They just don't. Well, the competition has arrived. There are some very good, very compelling cars out there from companies who are willing to sell them in small volumes at a loss just to get market share, the way other companies like Tesla themselves have done in order to gain market share. So that is something that is real. There was also a whole lot of hype surrounding the stock. It looked like Tesla could do no wrong. And there were big announcements. There was the Hertz deal. There was, a lot of improvements in cost. There was the fact that everyone else had shut down for the pandemic and Tesla didn't. They went full steam ahead with their parts orders and everything else so that they could remain poised to capitalize on that big event. And then there was also the fact that there was lease returns from 2018, 2019 coming back that were being sold at astronomically high prices, much higher than a lease return typically would. Those all led to some very rosy outlooks that I believe materialized. Investors may not agree. Where are we at today? Well, where we're at today is factories are ramping. They're not ramped, they're ramping. Model Y is already the best-selling car in the world. You start running out of headroom to increase. Texas and Berlin both have capacity they could add. They could add an additional shift. They could probably activate additional lines. They could produce more cars if they could increase the demand for them. And there are ways they are doing that, but they are incremental ways. In the past, they were so supply constrained that any additional production you could get online automatically would result in more deliveries. That doesn't appear to be the case right now. If rates improve, we'll see it improve. But I haven't seen anything that indicates when rates could come down. Will it happen this year? The market is uncertain. There have been, where we're at today, additional delays. Things have been delayed. If you went back 3 years, a lot of people felt very confident that FSD would be solved by now. I was very confident. It is not solved. Version 12 may be the silver bullet, but it is too soon to say. It is better than version 11, it appears, but better isn't the same as solved. This problem is very big, and every company trying to solve it is struggling mightily. The semi has been delayed. A year ago, we saw the groundbreaking, or the announcement that groundbreaking was imminent. Well, now the ground has been broken, but that just means that semi-production is at best a year out still. That's unfortunate. They will still move a lot of units, but not anytime soon. I'm pretty disappointed in that. The Cybertruck was delayed. We expected it to come online sooner. But as we saw the factory plans shift in Texas, it became clear that it wasn't going to come out until when it did, the end of 23. Some of us were hoping mid-23, early 23, but it didn't happen. Those delays create a drag on sentiment, which can hurt investments. But then we look at the actual fundamentals again, because we said, hey, cash on hand is doing great. The cash flow is doing great. But in terms of actual real metrics, the margins have compressed. The competition is doing their best to get their cars out on the market. All of this creates a bit of a drag. Shrinking margins don't help. But you got to remember, most of the shares, the biggest people who can actually move the market are the institutional buyers. Institutional buyers are still underrepresented. I can't move the stock. My channel certainly can't move the stock, but I personally can't move it at all. I have no money to buy more shares, not in any meaningful way, and I'm not going to sell my shares. I can't move this stock in either direction, but the institutional buyers can. And they do. Getting pointlessly kicked off the ESG was stupid. That was a politically motivated move by whoever it is that assigns ESG ratings. It's not U.S. politics. It's the politics of the business. So it is, not literal politics, but it is very dumb. Oil companies are on that list, while Tesla is not. That makes no sense. But ESG is just one small factor. There's a lot of other factors. The CEO has been making enemies. If you make political statements, right or wrong, true or false, you're going to make enemies. It doesn't matter what you say in politics, you are going to lose people. And if those people are ones who manage funds, it's a problem. It results in fewer people interested in buying the shares. And there have been some behaviors that have led some investors to believe that there's an ounce of instability. I don't share that view. I think the company is very strong. I think Investor Day in 23 showed how deep the bench is for Tesla's senior leadership. And I have no concerns on that, but I can't move the stock. And I don't think any of us here individually can. We shall see. So what does the future hold? Well, there'll be new products, but they're not coming yet. They're on a sufficiently long time horizon that the market doesn't care. The mega factory in Shanghai will be breaking ground if it hasn't already. They haven't disclosed the location because I assume they don't want us tracking it. That's going to produce billions in revenue, but billions in revenue isn't enough when you're considering a company with a market cap of $500 billion or more. It's not a big move. That's just revenue. That's not income. So it's not profit. Megafactory is probably the next thing that will start generating new revenue. There's new factories coming, but like we said earlier, the compact factory in Texas may come out this year, may complete this year, but the ones in Mexico and possibly Shanghai and possibly Berlin and possibly other locations are further on the horizon. Can't count those yet. So when? When will the next big thing hit? In terms of good news, FSD completion would be an absolute game changer. And if that happens this year, today's stock prices will look quaint. You will look back at them and think, boy, if only I had jumped when I had the chance. But most of you watching this have already jumped. You're already in. So I don't know who I'm talking to. Really, who am I talking to? What else could move it? The compact. When the compact arrives, we will then know what the competition is, who has the best margins, who has the best product. We will see it when it happens. And the truck can ramp. If it ramps, if the price comes down, it's going to be a game changer, but it's only going to be a game changer really in North America because that's really where trucks are sold. This could have a broader appeal internationally than other trucks made in or for the American market, but we don't even know if they'd be eligible for import, if they could even be sold there in the first place, and how big those markets would even be. We shall see. So what has really changed? Well, I suppose sentiment, I suppose uncertainty in China with their market having some issues, a flight to quality, or at least a perceived flight to quality. A lot of people have sold some Tesla shares to buy NVIDIA. NVIDIA may be the next, multi-trillion-dollar company, or they may be in a bubble like Tesla was when it hit its all-time high. If NVIDIA starts reversing, we'll see. Right now, NVIDIA has a pretty strong competitive advantage in terms of their chip fabrication and design, in terms of their product. Their product is the gold standard. It's just good. So I'm saying I'm still holding. I don't give financial advice. I can't tell you what to do. But I don't see many companies with the same 10-year prospects as Tesla. If there were any, I would buy those too. But I have not studied them well enough to know, and the ones I've studied still give me pause. So what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Leave it into them comments. You can support me on the places if you like. And stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.